Today is April 5th, 2015, and it's Easter. And anyway, so the United States did this whole weird thing. So I worked at the Post Pub, and then they did this weird thing by having Chris, Dabney, and James involved in waiting till I was intoxicated and having me go over to this hotel room where James Cartwright was staying at. And the same thing, the same setup was there. I mean, like all of these military backpacks, and all of those military backpacks were there when I was being embarrassed, with my dad in a bed, with people coming in and videotaping and doing what I told you that they did. And actually, I wasn't really sure if maybe my dad was in, or that Bob Jr. was in on it too, because on one hand, he looked like he was afraid and embarrassed himself. But then at one point, he was kind of looking over at them like, but sort of smiling like he was in on it. And I don't want to say, because sometimes they would force my parents to have they would sometimes literally tell my parents ahead of time, okay, you're going to go in there, you're going to act like you really like to do this, and you better have good facial expressions that go with this act, or you're dead. I mean, so seriously, sometimes the government was pressuring people to put on a good enough act with full corresponding expressions and everything, and it all had to line up and look good enough. I mean, because they did that to me too. When they were telling me to run around in Coos Bay and jump into different strange men's cars and fight off my parents and make it look good, they were torturing me if I didn't look good enough. If I didn't act good enough, like movie quality acting, or better than movie quality acting, because I mean it had to look really real, not like some sort of product of method training. I was getting tortured, and I know that some people sometimes were also getting tortured. So how much of the how many times the expressions even that I saw, which you sometimes use to gauge what's going on, how often they were genuine, like genuinely independent expressions, or something that they had to put on as an act. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, this Bob did look over to the rest of them and kind of smirk like he was in on it. I was the only one that at least was not told to act and was not quote unquote in on it, and just like stunned and shocked that what had happened just happened, and not really understanding why they were doing that. So then, and there were all these military backpacks in that room. And so then decades later, when they had me they forced me out of my housing deliberately, just to put me in a position of then having me go to James Cartwright's hotel room. They took me to the exact same hotel room with backpacks everywhere. And I was totally incapacitated, so I remember seeing that stuff, but I didn't remember it. And, once again, it was like another, well, anyway, so then James Cartwright, he did rape me. That's rape. It's not rape with his private part, but it was still rape, and then an attempt to make it look like I was bad or trying to do something weird. And after that, I was back at work, and as I say, then Chris Dabney was saying I could stay with him if I stayed in his bed. And I explained how I thought that possibly that was not necessarily he didn't include any kind of implicit suggestion that there had to be something sexual at all. So I didn't have any options. And I said, okay. And then instead of taking me to his own place, the first place that he took me to was supposedly his mom's apartment. She lived in a high-rise. And Nanette, stay down. Nanette, stop doing that. So she lived in a high-rise, and Nanette, don't do that. I just told you not to do that. Just being a bad dog. Purpose. I'm talking about the dog. So, anyway, I was at his at his mom's house, and she was an S&M trainer. And but I didn't remember who she was and what she did for a living, and how she was involved in trying to train me to be an S&M person. And by that I mean like I'm not talking like H&H, like retail clothing. I mean S&M as in sadomasochism, whatever it is. Anyway, so I was completely incapacitated the day that he took me over there, and he wasn't. He was a regular drinker, and he took me over there to his mom's house. Said that we could sleep on her bed, and again, I wondered, you know, I said I could sleep in a on the couch in the next room or something, and he said no, that wasn't what he had said. He was, and his mom didn't want people in there, and blah 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 and something. And so I was on the so I was in bed, and I was about to go to sleep, and basically he started trying something sexual, and had his mom's dog jumping all over the bed, and wanted his mom's dog on the bed for some reason, like at the same time, with the dog barking and jumping around on the bed like some little dog. And then he was okay, off. And I think that it was some kind of a revenge thing, because I didn't recognize it at the time. I didn't realize, I wasn't thinking about anything from my childhood or things that had happened to different people. Nanette, off the bed. No. Get up. You are not supposed to jump up there. Up. Stay down. So, I didn't realize that it was possibly like some kind of a revenge thing for a situation where one time my mom, or one of the Dixies, was on a bed, and I was with someone else, and I was pretty young. I was like definitely preteen. I'm not sure, like age 10 or 9 or maybe age 10 or so, and telling, or younger possibly, it's possibly around age 8 to 10, around that time. And someone had instructed me, tell your mom that she's having sex with so and so in his bed and everything. And then what else do you think should be added to it? And I said, well, put a dog on the bed. I don't remember what happened. Well, someone said, should we put a dog on the bed? And I said, okay, yeah. And so they put this dog on the bed, and they videotaped my mom with some guy supposedly having sex in a bed. And this is like all in the context of the United States government literally using me and forcing me to be trained to do S&M. And they were not just telling me to do S&M, they were bringing in an FBI men, Department of Justice men, and military men to test me out. Like when I was this kid, you know, I was having to like try out being the submissive one, and then more often what they were mostly training me to do is to be a dominatrix, which is hilarious because which actually is not hilarious, I should say. It's hard to it's actually hard to have the correct emotions sometimes for talking about some of the things that happened, because some of the things they did to me are just so crazy. On one hand, you can laugh at it, but seriously, it's really horrible and tragic. And so they had me acting as a dominatrix, and were forcing me also at different times to be a madam, pretend like I was a madam. And then in this one situation, they had me instructing how my mom, supposedly my mom was one of them, one of the supposed prostitutes, they would say. And I sort of thought at the time it was all just acting, like kind of like a staged type of a deal. And I don't think I ever thought that it was actually really real. And I didn't see anything that looked like real sex. I mean, I wasn't like right down there watching or anything. I just thought that they were saying, as people were goading me on, like these people who were programmers in my life and who I'd been forced to obey and listen to and go along with, they were basically saying, you know, how do you think this should happen, and blah blah blah. So they had me do that in the same kind of a bed, and it looked like the same room. It was possibly Dabney's mom's house back then, and if it wasn't, it was someone else's house because it looked like the same place. And I didn't recognize it later when he took me there. But then they had later said, and I didn't remember it at all because I didn't know how Chris Dabney was connected to this and what they were doing. They had said to me after I went along with what they were telling me to do with my mom, or instructions, they said, when you're older, you're going to get raped like that. You're going to be raped, and because of what you just did to your mom. And like everything that the government did, all of their hate crimes against me were motivated by greed. They were stealing, you know, trillions of dollars of songs and music from me, and they kept trying to force me, abuse their authority by forcing me to go along with what they were telling me to do. And as I said, most of the time it was under torture with guns to my head and knives to my throat and that kind of thing. And these programmers who were forcing me to be obedient to them, basically, were also telling me to do things and act out things, make decisions that they wanted to use against me, and then they wanted me to have guilt trips and to think that, well, in the future, when the United States government did all these bad things to me, just remember that what you did as a little girl was so horrible. And they wanted me to feel like I couldn't tell anyone about it, and I was receiving some kind of a just reward for things that I'd done when I wasn't. They were torturing me, brutally torturing me, and looking for excuses for kidnapping, rape, massive gang rape, and theft, constant theft, and oppression of my free enterprise. So here's Chris Dabney. Then decades later, I didn't recognize him. I didn't recognize the room when I was first there. I was intoxicated. And I didn't put two and two together as to like, oh yeah, I remember being here with my mom and some other people and what happened there. But he had this dog get on the bed, and then he basically attacked me on the bed. And he raped me while I was intoxicated. And then after he raped me, he said, and I had told him I didn't want to do anything. And after he raped me, right afterwards, he said, well, it was actually while he was raping me towards the end, as he was actually penetrating me and raping me, he said, here's another one in the hole. And just made this comment out loud about, here's another one in the hole, as he was raping me, I guess, in the hole. And And I believe that he said that out loud because probably he had hidden cameras rigged up and he wanted it documented so that he could get some kind of bonus check from the United States fucking government.